It is 6 o'clock on the dot. Hey y'all. Obviously, I'm not Shanae. I'm Claire. I'm a Mind. I'll be pinch hitting for Shanae tonight. If this is your first time tuning in, every Monday, we here at Minds of Jamaica have what's called Mentorship Mondays, where we'll spotlight our different minds and the really dope work that they're doing. So tonight we have Kelsey Jones, who's an international admissions officer, director,
counselor.
Counselor.
One day soon to be director.
Listen, speaking it into existence. International admissions counselor for the University of Wisconsin-La Crosse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so again, my name is Kelsey Jones. I'm a Mind as well. Mind for a little over 6-7 months now almost. You know, I just been told to clean off my camera if I can. Let's see. Oh, maybe that's a little bit better. But yeah, I've been a Mind for a little bit while. Have my own mentee. Love the experience so far. So I'm excited to talk to you guys about kind of all of what I do, how I got started, and if you're thinking about applying for admissions in the U.S., what that might look like, and things to look out for, especially in this upcoming year with COVID-19.
So what was your journey to becoming a Mind? You and Kamir kind of go way back, right?
Yeah, way back. So it's a little funny. So actually, I was really good friends with his girlfriend at the time, and it was her birthday, and we had a karaoke session for her birthday, and I was like, okay, I'm just some random dude coming into the group, but they welcomed me with open arms. We were singing that night, and that's it. It's been a wrap since. We've been pretty much. He's one of my best friends since. But the biggest part was them taking me into the Caribbean Student Association, because I discovered while I was in college that I have Guyanese descent. So they took me into the Caribbean Student Association, and that experience is really what fueled me, because my degree is in international affairs. And so I was looking at doing like being an FBI profiler or international security, something along those lines. And after doing internships, I really found out that really wasn't the path for me. Yeah. I have a problem with authority. So taking orders blindly is not my forte. So that experience working with students and Caribbean Student Association and stuff like that really expanded my mind of what I might be able to do. And so then I started looking more at international education and student affairs. And so that's where I kind of pivoted in my senior year, really, of, okay, what am I going to do once I get this degree? Yeah. And right after that, went straight into another international counselor position in South Carolina, so very close to Georgia. We went to the University of Georgia at Go Dogs. Did that for about 2 years, but wasn't getting the upward mobility that I was looking for. You know, we got to keep it moving. Yeah. You know, we can't stand still, right? So then I moved over to La Crosse, and it's been an amazing experience so far. La Crosse has allowed me to go to 33 different countries in the last few years, meet tons of amazing students, tons of amazing peoples. I've visited embassies and consulates and met some pretty important people through along the way, and had some great experiences so far.
That's wild. 33 countries? What are
33? Oh, yeah, 33. Jamaica was actually number 30. Jamaica was actually number 30 in December. Kamir showed me around, which was pretty dope.
Oh, wow. Did you get to visit the embassy while you were there too?
No, I was on vacation. I didn't do no work, except for becoming the Mind and helping out with some little stuff there, but no work. It was vacation here.
All right. So where are some of the other places that you've traveled to within your role?
So most of my recruitment is in Southeast Asia and Africa. Oh. So that is sub-Saharan Africa, and which was important for me because I live in Wisconsin, and Wisconsin is predominantly white. So it's, you know, real lack of diversity here. And so one of my initiatives was like, we need to bring diversity here. And so focusing on regions in which we can bring more diversity to the state and to the university was important to me. So that's what I've been doing: Africa, Ghana, Nigeria, Kenya, Rwanda, Cote d'Ivoire, South Africa. Uganda's another one I'm looking to go to next. Ethiopia as well. A few other countries to throw in there. And so growing that along Southeast Asia, Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia, which I absolutely love. And then, of course, Latin America, which if I ever go back to Latin America, I might not come back to the U.S. I absolutely love Colombia and Mexico and stuff like that. And I'm trying to trying to learn Spanish, Italian a bit as well. So that helps me a little bit when I'm out there as well.
So how do you kind of prepare students for that transition? Like you're having the conversation with them about like all these great opportunities to study in the United States, but you're also traveling to a lot of countries in the global South. So you're looking at like sub-Saharan Africa, and you're looking at like Southeast Asia, and you're bringing them to a place that is very starkly very different demographics than what they're used to seeing. So like how do you kind of prepare students for that that culture shock?
I remember one of the questions that took me aback when I first started in Africa was I did an interview with a local news group out there, and they were at one of the virtual fairs.
Yeah.
And they basically asked me, what is it like to be a Black man in Wisconsin? And I was like, man, how do I answer that? So then I really started to really figure out what it is like, not only as a Black man, but also as a student. I started talking to more of my African American students at the university, some of my students from Africa that we have as international students, to really understand what it's like for them. And then also recruited them to become some of my ambassadors. So I run a group of student ambassadors at the university that I started. And these are students that talk with prospective students about their experiences. And I give them free reign to be as honest as they want to be about what it's like there. All of it's been good so far, so that's certainly a good note. But that's what I talk to the students when I'm abroad about. It's like, talk with students at the university, because I'm paid to tell you how great this university is, right? So I have an agenda, right? Even though I'm pretty sincere, I think most people can tell that.
Yeah.
The students don't have an agenda. They don't get paid. They're volunteers and stuff like that. They don't have an agenda, and they're going to be real with you, especially as someone coming from a region they came from. And so that's the best perspective, but also understanding what that university entails, the demographics, obviously. I mean, then can you even afford to go to that university? Because there are better options out there for students who can't quite afford to go to a four-year university right off the bat and need to potentially get scholarships, especially if they need to increase their grades a bit. So I always talk about community colleges and what that looks like, and partnerships we have to give them avenues to get to where they want to be.
Ooh, let's talk about that a little bit more. Like, what are some things that you tell like students to consider when they're studying abroad? Like so many international students whom I've encountered overseas who say they want to study in the United States. Like it's like the same 10 universities or so that they keep saying that they want to study at. And it's like, you realize there are thousands of colleges
over 4,000
in the United States. So like, what do you tell students about what things they should be keeping in mind to make sure that they make the right decision for what's a good fit for them?
So that's probably one of my biggest pet peeves for sure, being out on the road. And I don't mind doing this because it needs to be said. One, re-educating the students, and two, even more so, re-educating the parents about what is out there. Because for a lot of the parents, they see what they see on the news, or they know the prestige of certain universities, and that's kind of what they go on. Word of mouth is certainly important, but having the students really do their own research about what they're looking for out of the college experience, what type of outcomes can that university have on them, can certainly open their mind up to way more opportunities. For example, the mentee that I'm working with now, I think I was so impressed from jump because he came to me with a list and some background research and was like, I've already done all of this, can you just kind of help me break this down? And so I was like ecstatic. I was like, this is awesome, because you already have A, B, and C schools. And the more we dove into it and looked at it, he's looking more at some of these B schools, more so now, because he's starting to see that these are more specific what he really, really wants to do, as opposed to the Ivy Leagues he was looking at, even though he has an amazing chance to probably get in one of these Ivy Leagues. Definitely. But he's looking more at that, because that's what it is. Because I always tell students, finding a university is not just about going to a university. It's about finding the best fit for you, whether that's you're super social or super quiet, if you want to do undergraduate research, if you want to play sports, all of those types of things that will go into that process. And then, of course, the bottom line is always finances. That's always the bottom line for students, the finances. We have that real conversation with students. I'm not going to promise you a bunch of scholarships. A lot of times universities, and this is not a knock on my colleagues, but a lot of universities will say like, oh, you can get this amount of much in scholarships, or we have this really great scholarship, something like that. But students don't realize you're competing with thousands of other students also applying for the scholarship. realistic, how well are you going to get this scholarship, right? And so students will put like all of their eggs in this basket thinking, oh, I have a great chance to do this, or if I get these scholarships, I'm good. And so they might get $30,000 from a university, and they don't realize, well, the total cost of that university is actually $70,000 a year. And so you only got $30,000 scholarships from that university. Now you got to front $40,000 out of pocket.
Ooh.
When a university, if you were going to do that, a university that was similar or can give you similar outcomes actually cost you much cheaper than that. They were only $30,000 total, and they gave you maybe 15 in scholarships. So your actual only cost is 15,000.
Yeah.
Right? It's those type of things I try to get students to really, really scroll through, because when you're meeting a university and you know the name of the university is so exciting and stuff like that, students don't really take the time to do that background research. And so that's one thing I definitely like to educate students on.
Absolutely. The thing is, cost can be such a huge deterrent for students in the United States, let alone someone who's coming from overseas. Now you have to factor in the fact that your parents aren't there. You don't have that.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have that like familial base there to where you can just tap them and be like, hey, I need this. Like, you got to figure out your housing. You got to figure out like your cost of living, your transportation, your gas, your food. All of these things are like factored into cost of attendance. Like that number that you see, that bottom line that you see for like cost of tuition, that's just the start.
Just the start, for sure. It's only the tip of the iceberg, as we say.
Yeah. So that's such a good point. Like, do you find that a lot of students, do you think they're really kind of receptive to that messaging with some of the mentees, and even just like students that you've encountered kind of in travels? Like, what's some of the feedback that you've gotten with this advice?
Well, the mentee I have, he's been super receptive to it. So that's been working with him really, really easy. I think it's definitely half and half. Some students are really receptive to it. They don't really know much about the process, and so they have those open ears. Yeah. But you will always have those students and parents that they know what they know.
Yeah.
And so you can't tell them anything. I don't work for instance, I work for the University of Wisconsin-La Crosse, which is ranked second in the state. And within the UW system. But of course, the flagship is University of Wisconsin-Madison, which is ranked in the top 50 in the world. You know what I mean? So like if I work for Madison, those ears would perk up way more often. They would be more receptive to listening, but it's not coming from someone who represents Madison, right? So a lot of times I'll go into a building or a speech or a presentation, and already you have some that are falling on deaf ears and stuff like that. I always say that's not who I'm there to reach. They're going to go where they're going to go. I still hope they be successful in whatever they do. I'm there to reach the ones that really, really want to listen. So.
Yeah. What are some other like common misconceptions you think a lot of international students have about studying in the United States?
Common misconceptions for sure is just where they're going, what is it going to be like? I think they see what they see on movies, and they think this is what college is going to be like for sure. They don't really know. The amount of times I've heard students say, well, I might not get that much in scholarships, but it's okay. I'm going to get a part-time job and I'll be good. And I'm like, no, you're not. Minimum wage is only about $7 an hour. Like, I'm sorry, that's not true. If anybody tells you otherwise, don't listen to them. They lie to your face. Like it is not enough to cover your expenses, those type of things. A lot of students don't know kind of the history of the U.S. to a degree, and so they don't realize like demographically, like what type of things, especially as students of color, international students of color, what they might experience in the South compared to the Northeast or the West Coast or something like that. They don't know those type of things, or even the Midwest, right? So I always tell students, especially if they're looking to the South, as a student who went to the South, be weird. I mean, you're going to experience racism anywhere, but you might experience a different level of racism in the South than you might otherwise. So those type of things be prepared for. They don't just know about because they don't really know the history of our country to understand that. And they think that all Americans are rich. That's not necessarily the case, those type of things. So even the ins and outs and all the resources on campus and how to work everything. Like I was just working with a student on how to register for classes, and it was like a foreign language to her, like pretty much, because they don't go through that process where she's from in Ghana. So understanding that and not being afraid to ask for help is also important, because I'm proud to say that I've stayed up till 10, 12, two in the morning helping a student with these type of things, because that's part of what we do and that's part of what we love to do, because definitely don't do it for the money. So, you know what I mean?
And what are some other resources that that students can take advantage of? Like I think like social media is obviously a big one, and like the school's website is a big one, but there are all these other ways that students can kind of like gather information about the university, about their professors, about their classmates, about the city they're traveling to. So what are some other places that students can go to really kind of like get a view of what their experience may be like?
The biggest things I always tell students you want to make sure to do is reach out to your local sources. Like, so if you know of people in your community that have experience, going to university in the US, reach out to them, see what that's like, right? One of the biggest things that you can certainly do is utilize this one resource called Education USA, which you can typically find their office at the embassy or consulate in your country. They are great resources. All of their counselors have been trained, have gone to the U.S. themselves and toured a lot of the universities if they didn't study abroad themselves. So they are great resources. They work directly with universities like me and people in my position or higher. So they have great insights to those type of things. Of course, like I said, if you looking at a university, see what type of sessions that they're having virtually, especially right now. See if you can get in contact with students. See if you can get in contact with professors, especially if you're looking at doing undergraduate research or looking to utilize some type of connection that you found out a professor have had. You can do all of these things before you even get to the university, because most universities are happy to do so, to reach those prospective students, to make them part of their university community. So definitely utilize all of those resources, but start locally, because that's the easiest thing you can do right now.
Yeah. And how early do you think students should start this process if they're looking at maybe studying in the United States? Is it ever too early?
See, I love the saying, it's never too early to get started, right? It's never too early to start acquiring that knowledge and building your portfolio and all of that stuff. Yeah. But realistically, typically your junior year in high school or the second to last year in high school is the great time to start. You can start gathering some few information, especially, for instance, for students right now going into their final year of high school. This is the perfect time to, if you haven't already, reach out to universities during the summer when things have slowed down for those universities, where they're starting to look to, okay, what is recruitment going to be like in the fall? To know how early can I apply, what type of scholarships, the deadlines that I need to look out for. Am I a good candidate, or do I need to start expanding my search? All of those type of things is the best way to do that right now. You can get in contact with universities via email, WhatsApp, various social medias. Most will have some type of international phone number or something like that you can call specifically, or hotline to talk with students or staff members that they have. So tons of ways to get in contact with universities. Just take the time out to do so.
Absolutely. Kamir just asked, what's the best way to try to get in contact with students of the university?
So a lot of universities now are utilizing this, especially during this time of social distancing and physical distancing, and so virtual ways to do so. So most universities, admissions offices or international offices, will have opportunities to do that, and that might look differently. Always the easiest thing to do is reach out to somebody like me in either type of office and say, hey, I'm really considering your university. I would love to talk with one of your current students, and they can connect you on whether that's, like, for instance, we have a link called Unibuddy and I have that link directly on my email. So if a student emails me, they can access that right away. Or you can go to the website or do so. We'll get you connected some way. Some of my students are even comfortable saying, oh, do you mind giving your WhatsApp number to the student? It's like, yeah, give it to me. I'd love to chat with them, because that's the easiest way to do so. So working with those students, most universities will have those type of options. It's not unique to any one university, especially in this day and age. So all you got to do is ask, really.
Absolutely. And I think especially with the COVID-19 pandemic now, like, so much is up in the air. So much there's so much that's just really kind of in a holding pattern. So how do you think this pandemic and universities doing their best to try to keep campuses safe and keep any outbreaks from happening and impacting their students? How do you think that's going to impact admissions of international students? Like,
It's going to
and
impact in a large way. Yeah, and it's going to impact in a large way, in a way that we really can't even control. I mean, the biggest reason right now, most consulates or embassies in the U.S. are not open or have minimal staff, and their visa services are not being utilized for international students. Right now, usually it's only utilized for U.S. citizens trying to get back to the U.S. or need some type of visa change or something like that. That's a priority right now. So there's going to be a lot of universities that don't have much of an incoming fall class because of that. Students can't get visas. Their current students who had to go home during the year may have trouble getting back into the country because of those type of things, because of COVID-19 and the travel restrictions in their own country, or troubles with flights getting to those countries and things like that. There's even been talk in the news most recently. Some universities are talking about chartering airplanes to go to different countries to pick up their students, which is unprecedented, to be honest. I can't imagine most universities doing that, given the already amount of revenue loss they've suffered. So that's a huge thing. And all universities are talking about what is the semester going to look like, whether there's going to be on-campus classes fully, some type of hybrid method where it's like some classes on campus, some classes online. All universities in California, they're not having on-campus classes. They've already said that, right? And they come out of the state and said that type of thing. So it's going to vary the spectrum for sure, and it's just going to look different. So a lot of students are deferring to the spring semester, the fall semester, because that's just realistically what it's going to look like. Because what type of experience are they even going to have on campus if they are able to come this fall? Because there's going to be a lot of things that aren't being utilized or aren't open. There's not going to be that same sense of community that you might have get during a normal time.
Yeah. And how has that impacted your role? Have you done any sort of like recruitment or outreach work virtually? Have you been able to, or?
Yeah, that's pretty much what we've been doing. We've been going full force with that, just kind of reiterating the students. I'm talking to students constantly, just kind of reassuring them that we still are planning for them to be here in the fall, but if they realistically can't get a visa, which is beyond our control, what is their next processes and steps going to look like? We're still recruiting for spring 2020 and fall 2021. I'm hoping that I can travel come October, November, December, and I think that's even optimistic still. Of course, that's even a more issue that we probably don't have time to get into right now, but I'm hoping, because meeting face-to-face with students is still the best way to do so, but virtually, that's the best way to reach them right now. So most companies that have done tours in country are now switching to kind of virtual fairs and stuff like that, and so we're looking at those type of options.
How feasible is it, do you think, Kamir posed this question, how feasible is it for students to consider maybe going to their local university for a year and then trying to transfer to a U.S. university in their second year?
That's a great option. That's a great point Kamir makes. That's actually a great option for students to do if they do so. One, it's because you don't want to take a complete gap year if you really want to stay on your toes with that type of thing. And usually that's a cheaper option anyway. But of course, when it comes to that option, the biggest thing is you will be considered a transfer student. So by doing so, there may be loss in some type of scholarship opportunities. You may not transfer all of your credits over to U.S. universities. And so one thing you can watch out for is, does the university you're considering have some type of partnership with the university in the country you go to, or your country you're from? If not, can you give them some type of sample schedule and say, hey, what are the chances that these type of courses will transfer over? If you do that early enough, you might be able to switch courses that will all transfer over. That way you're still on good track. That's where that constant communication is still important, even if you're not planning to go to that university for a year. That's another myth, is that there's a lot of universities out there where students think, oh, if I'm not planning on go this semester, the university doesn't care about me. That's not true. We work with prospective students and we help them through those processes all of the time. So you can still reach out to universities and say, hey, I really want to come for fall 2021, but I plan to do this for a year. Can you help me kind of navigate that? We'll be more than happy to, because that's going to make you most successful when you do finally come to our university, for sure.
What are some other ways that students can get creative and really, if they do decide to take a gap year, especially in this time where just so much is kind of unknown, what are some ways that they can make that as like effective and substantive as possible, where
Mm-hmm.
they're still kind of an attractive candidate to colleges and universities at the end of it.
I mean, as much as I love Call of Duty and stuff like that, don't spend the entire year playing that type of thing. Don't, I mean, make the most out of that gap year if you can, whether that's some type of job opportunity, some type of internship opportunity. A lot of universities will have like a 1-year certificate program or some type of virtual online coursework you can do that'll still help you stand out, especially through the admissions process, may make you eligible for another scholarship, and will get you even more experience, especially in the field that you're looking into, where in today's age, the best way to get a job is not necessarily just having a degree, because that's standard. It's about those extra experiences and that practical experience you're getting. So make the most of that year, especially in this unprecedented time. I know that Kamir has reached out to some students about opportunities for that at Cornell that he's been doing. I know that my mentee, he's done that with some of the universities he's looking at, with some online coursework and some courses that he's taking that might give them a better chance of getting in, as well as that practical experience in that field he goes into a data analysis. So those type of things are really, really important to get creative and think of those ways for sure.
And who are some of the mentors that that you've had kind of in your career and within the international admissions field?
For sure, I would say my first couple of years in the job was my time to really soak it all in. That's one piece of advice I always give to students. When you go into something new and fresh, be like a sponge. Soak up everything you can. Nothing is too big or small for you. Don't think you know how to do everything, because you don't.
Yeah.
Just soak all of that up. So one of my biggest mentors was a woman named Kristen Allen, who had been in a position for a very, very long time. Definitely should have been an assistant director somewhere or something like that, and just kind of took me under her wing as a young Black man going through what we were going through at the time. So big shout outs to her for what she did through. I always tell Kamir, I look up to him too. You know, he's always been a legend in the making, a mover, constantly doing things. So he's inspired me to do a lot of things in my own right, to make more out of what I've been doing. And that's why I say in the last 5 years, I can say where I'm at because of that. Another mentor of mine was a mentor from high school. His name was Kenneth Johnson, just striving for more. And he's the biggest reason why I decided to go ahead and get my master's, which I just completed this past May.
Hey,
so I got a master's degree. Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. Like, crazy 2 years, but I'm done. I got that master's degree and looking for what's the next step, moving forward with that. But for sure, I definitely say someone. And of course, my mom constantly pushes me, always pushes me. So I can't thank her enough for sure.
That's one of the things that we like to talk about with I think our mentees a lot, and just I think followers of Minds of Jamaica in general, are kind of the ways in which mentees can be effective mentees and really take advantage of having someone in your life who's willing to pour and willing to invest into you. Like, you have to nurture that relationship just like you would any other. Otherwise, it's not really going to serve you well. So what are some of the things that your mentees have done that you think have been not only helpful to you as a mentor to help guide them, but also have helped them in the long term?
Yeah, that's why we're here, right? That's why we do what we do at Minds of Jamaica, because we definitely feel that a mentor can have that profound effect on somebody, to really change your life and get you to go where you're going. And I think my mentee has been so great so far because, like I said, he's put in that extra work from jump.
Yeah.
He's been open and receptive. I think he's helped me. Just knowing what he wants to get has pushed me to go above and beyond as what I can give to him, because I would say, him not wanting to go into a career field that I'm in, he wants to go into something completely different. Yeah. So I'm thinking, okay, if he doesn't want to do what I want to do, how can I still help him to get to where he was? And so that's caused me to do even extra research of my own, to take some of my own advice, right? And then, of course, just constantly that good communication that we have, laying out a game plan every single time we meet, doing something next. As we talk about admissions, whenever you send somebody a message or something, like, give them an actionable step. So you don't want to just say, hey, what's up? You want to say, hey, what's up? What have you done today? What can you do tomorrow? And so on and so forth, right? You want to give them an actionable step to constantly keep going. You don't want to have them standing still. So I think that's been a great process.
Exactly. So I know we're coming up on our 30-minute mark. Is there anything that I haven't asked you, anything that you wanted to share, that you wanted to emphasize?
Yeah, real quick, if you want to get into student affairs, you don't have to have a specific major. That's the beauty of student affairs. It's one of the most general professions you can really do.
Yeah.
One thing you just have to do is be great at communication and personable, have a passion for the type of work we're doing, and be very, very open-minded. From a career perspective, we have people from all the areas of the liberal arts, even the sciences as well. But once you get into it, there's a lot of work to be done. It's not an easy job by any means. But if you ever want to get into student affairs, let me know. I would be happy to walk you through that process and talk to you all about all the different areas you can get into for sure. But one last piece of advice is, like I said, never stand still. Always keep pushing. Take the time to relax. You need that self-care, but always figuring out what's the next great thing I can keep doing. You never want to stand still.
I hear that. Guys, if you have additional questions for Chelsea, definitely hit us up. Oh, wait. No, Kamir has another question. But Kamir has a
Ah,
question. He's asking about standardized tests and how the
yeah.
shift away from standardized tests is impacting international students.
Yeah, I think it's twofold. Some universities are shifting away because it's a barrier to admission for a lot of students. One, the SAT, ACT is a test that is based on the U.S. curriculum. So I've always felt that it was arbitrary to even require that of students. I think a lot of universities are seeing that the same way. But I think it's affecting a lot of students that are going through the process now because they've always banked on that process as a big part of, well, if I don't do as well in my grades, I can still do great on this area and be able to get into the university I want to get into, right? So now we're putting much more focus on the grades than the SAT, especially with that being optional. But one thing that also will do is open up some scholarships that were required in SAT or ACT. Those scholarships will no longer do so, right? So that's another barrier that's being taken away from scholarships as well. So there's kind of the good and the bad with it for students. But I would say look on the good. If you're in your last year, do as best you can in your last year to get those grades up, especially because most universities aren't requiring the SAT or ACT right now. That's less of a stressor that you have to worry about. Not everybody's great at taking tests, right? So definitely just focus on the positive when it comes to that. But there will be some international students affected by that process for sure.
Absolutely. And I also think part of the conversation around kind of phasing out standardized tests have been how they're not in a measure or an indicator at all of students' academic ability and
Nope.
their intelligence or like their work ethic. None of those things. It tests your
Yep.
ability to take a test. And
That's actually part of what I did for my master's thesis, right? So looking at what aspects of international students help make them most successful, and most international students don't struggle academically,
mm-hmm,
for the most part. They've come to the U.S. They're pretty serious about their academics in a large degree. So academics is not typically where they struggle, right? And one standardized test isn't a good indicator of their academic success anyway. Where they typically struggle is the social and cultural aspects at a university, not feeling welcome or not feeling that they're a part of a community or anything like that, and how can they be best involved. And so how can universities really shift that focus from the academics, which is obviously the most important part, but as we talk about holistic review of students, also holistic experience for students to make them the most successful, because obviously social and cultural aspects of the real world will also help them make them great at their job as well.
it's kind of side, but what are some things? What are some like programs and like extracurricular activities that are available and kind of staples on a lot of U.S. college campuses that international
Mhm.
students can take advantage of to kind of fold themselves into their campus life? I know you talked about the Caribbean Student Association. I did student newspaper when I first joined my campus, and that was how I made like my first group of friends. Gospel choir. Like, what are some of
Mhm.
these things that students can do to make where they're studying also feel like home?
Exactly. And you're right. You have those general student organizations that can be kind of a home base for you,
Yeah.
where you'll have students that are similar to you or hold similar cultural values and social norms and stuff like that, that you can really feel like you're a home away from home there.
Yeah.
But then you can branch out and do whatever your niches are. So if you love the arts and things like that, get into a theater club or a performance group. If you love sports, do intramural. If you're not on a NCAA level, do intramural club sports. Um, if you like cooking or if you want to start your own organization, you can do those type of things at university to help make it your own. Because if you have something that you really like
Yeah.
and you start an organization, there's bound to be at an institution that have thousands of students typically. There's bound to be others who also want to get into that as well. So you can be a trailblazer and start your own organization as well to really do those type of things and make yourself feel at home. The biggest key is don't be afraid to try new things,
Yeah.
right? And then as early as the first semester, try a bunch of things to really figure out what's the best for you. One of the biggest regrets I had was not being a part of Caribsa for my entire college career. I was only part of Caribsa the last 2 years.
Yeah.
And like I said, some of my best friends to today are people that I met during that time. So definitely don't wait too long to get into that type of thing.
And honestly, part of me feels like as you're going through this research process of which colleges and universities you're considering, what extracurricular like in that can bolster your college experience, that needs to be a part of what schools are making your top 5, what schools are making your top 10.
Right.
Like,
right.
You want to study journalism, but your school doesn't even have like an active student media presence. Like you want to be a musician, or you want to be a jazz musician. Your school doesn't even have like an active jazz band. Like these are.
Yeah, exactly. You said it perfectly. Like not only because academics, a lot of universities can offer you those great academics from that standpoint, but how are you going to get those practical experiences? How are you going to be part of that community to really get into the field or even know, is this really, really what I want to do?
Exactly.
Right? So like finding a university that has those type of active parts of their university culture and community is important to being successful for sure. You said it absolutely perfect. I couldn't have said it better.
Yeah. So second time is the charm. Did we have any more questions for Kelsey before we let him go? No, I'm not seeing any. Before we head out, guys, if you think of any later, definitely feel free to message us on mindsofjamaica.com. Like Kelsey is here. You can tweet us, DM us on Instagram. We want to make sure that we have those resources available to you to help you as you're on this like professional development and career advancement journey. And as an aside, today is our Minds of Jamaica founder, Kamir Ricketts. It's his birthday. Shout out to me.
Yes, sir. Get old.
Oh my God. Oh my goodness. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thanks, Kelsey.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.